Chapter 48. They slowly walked back to camp. The tall man was the Texas Attorney General, the chief law enforcement officer of the state. Stanley's lawyer was named Miss Moringo. Stanley held the suitcase. He was so tired he couldn't think straight. He felt like if he was walking in a dream, not quite able to comprehend what was going on around him. They stopped in front of the camp office. Mr. Sir went inside to get Stanley's belongings. The authorities general told Mr. Pendanski to get the boys something to drink and eat. The warden seemed to gaze at Stanley. "You can't even read," she said to Zero. Zero said nothing. Mrs. Morgango put a hand on Stanley's shoulder and told him to hang in there. He would be seeing his parents soon. She was shorter than Stanley, but somehow gave the appearance to being tall. Mr. Pendanski returned with 2 cartons of orange juice and 2 bagels. Stanley drank the juice but didn't feel like eating anything. "Wait!" the warden exclaimed. "I didn't say that they stole the suitcase. It's his suitcase, obviously, but he put my things from the cabin inside it." "That isn't what you said earlier," said Mrs. Morengo. What's in the suitcase?" the warden asked Stanley. "Tell us what's in it, then we'll open it and see." Stanley didn't know what to do. "Stanley, as your lawyer, I advise you not to open your suitcase," said Mrs. Morgango. "He has to open it," said the warden. "I have the right to check the personal property of any of the detainees. How do I know there ain't drugs or weapons in there? He stole a car too. We've got witnesses." She was nearly hysterical. "He is no longer under your jurisdiction," said Stanley's lawyer. "He has not been officially released," said the warden. "Open the suitcase, Stanley." Do not open it," said Stanley's lawyer. Stanley did nothing. Mr. Sir returned from the office with Stanley's backpack and clothes. The Attorney General handed Mrs. Morgengo a sheet of paper. "You're free to go," he said to Stanley. "I know you're anxious to get out of here, so you can just keep the orange suit as a souvenir or burn it, whatever you want. Good luck, Stanley." He reached out his hand to shake, but Mrs. Morgengo hurried Stanley away. "Come on, Stanley," she said. We have a lot to talk about." Stanley stopped and turned to look at Zero. He couldn't just leave him here. Zero gave him thumbs up. "I can't leave Hector," Stanley said. "I suggest we go," said his lawyer, with a sense of urgency in her voice. "I'll be okay," said Zero. His eyes shifted towards Mr. Pendanski on one side of him, and the warden and Mr. Sir on the other. There's nothing I can do for your friend," said Mrs. Morgano. "You are released pursuant to an order from the judge." They'll kill him, said Stanley. Your friend is not in danger, said the Attorney Journal. There's going to be an investigation into everything that happened here. For the present, I am taking charge of the camp. Come on, Stanley, said his lawyer. Your parents are waiting. Stanley stayed where he was. His lawyer sighed. May I have a look at Hector's file? She said. Certainly, said the Attorney General. Mrs. Walker, go get Hector's file. She looked at him blankly. Well, the warden turned to Mr. Pendanski, bringing the Hector Zeroni's file. He stared at her. Get it, she ordered. Mr. Pendanski went into the office. He returned a few minutes later and announced the file was apparently misplaced. The Attorney General was outraged. What kind of camp are you running here, Miss Walker? The warden said nothing. She stared at the suitcase. The Attorney General assured Stanley's lawyer that he would get the records. Excuse me, while I call my office, he turned back to the warden. I assume the phone works. He walked into the camp office, slamming the door behind him. A little while later, he reappeared and told the warden he wanted to talk to her. She cursed, then went inside. Stanley gave Zero stand up. Caveman, is that you? He turned to see Armpit and Squid coming out of the rec room. Squid shouted back into the rec room. Caveman and Zero are out there. Soon all the boys from Group D had gathered around them and around him and Zero. Good to see you, man, Armpit said, shaking his hand. We thought you were Bazaar's food. Stanley is being released today, said Mr. Pendanski. Way to go, said Magnet, hitting him on the shoulder. And you didn't even have to step on a rattlesnake, said Squid. Even Zigzag shook Stanley's hand. Sorry about you know. It's cool, said Stanley. We had to lift the truck clear out of the hole, Zigzag told him. It took everybody in C, D, and E. We just picked it right up. It was really cool, said Twitch. X-Ray was the only one who didn't come over. Stanley saw him hanging back behind the others a moment, then returned to the rec room. Guess what? Said Magnet, glancing at Mr. Pendanski. Mom says we don't have to dig any more holes. That's great, Stanley said. Will you do my favor? Asked Squid. I guess, Stanley agreed. Somewhat hesitatingly, I want you to. He turned to Miss Morengo. Hey lady, hey lady, you have a pen and paper I can borrow? She gave it to him. The Squid wrote down a phone number, which she gave to Stanley. Call my mom for me, okay? Tell her I said I was sorry about her alarm. Alan said he was sorry. Tell her Alan said he was sorry. Stanley promised he would. Now you be careful out in the real world, said Armpit. Not everyone is as nice as us, Stanley smiled. The boys departed when the warden came out of the office. The Attorney General was right behind her. My office is having some difficulty locating Hector Zeroni's records, the Attorney General said. So, you have no claim of authority over him? Asked Mrs. Morgengo. I didn't say that. He's in the computer. We just can't assess his records. It's like they fallen through a hole, like cyberspace. A hole is cyberspace, said Miss Morgano Morengo repeated. How interesting. When is he release date? I don't know. How long he has been here? Like I said, we can't. So what are you planning to do with him? Come him confined indefinitely without just justification, while you go crawling through black holes in cyberspace. The 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 Authority Journal stared at her. We was obviously in cur- curried for the reason. Oh, and what reason was that? The Attorney General said nothing. Stanley's lawyer took hold of Zero's hands. Come on, Hacker. You're coming with us. Chapter 49. There never used to be yellow-spotted lizards in the town of Green Lake. They didn't come in the area until after the lake dried up. But the town folk had heard about the red-eyed monsters living in the desert hills. One afternoon, Sam, the Onion Man, and his donkey, Mary Lou, were returning to his boat, which was unshored just a little offshore. It was late in November, and the peach peach trees had almost lost their leaves. Sam called, someone called. He turned around to see three men running after him, waving their hats. He waited. Afternoon, Walter Boges, he greeted them as they walked up, catching their breath. Glad we caught you, said Bo. You're you're we're going rattlesnake hunting in the morning. We want to get some of your lizard juice, said Walter. I ain't scared of no rattlesnake, said Jeez, but I don't want to come across those red-eyed monster I seen on one once, and that was enough. I knew about a red eyes. Of course, I hadn't heard about the big black teeth. It's the white tongues that gets me, said Bo. Sam gave each man 2 bottles of pure onion juice. He told them to drink 1 bottle before going to bed that night, then a half bottle in the morning, and then a half bottle around lunchtime. Are you sure this stuff works? Asked Walter. I tell you what, said Sam. If it doesn't, you can come back next week, and I'll give you your money back. Walter looked around, unsure, as Bo and Jeez laughed. Then Sam together too. Even Mary Lou let out a rare hee-haw. Just remember, Sam told the man before they left. It's very important to drink a bottle tonight. You got to get it into your bloodstream. The lizard don't like onion blood. Stanley and Zero back, sat in the back seat of Miss Morgengo's BMY. The suitcase lay between them. It was locked, and they decided they'd let Stanley's father try to open it in his workshop. You don't know what's in it, do you? She asked. No, said Stanley. I didn't think so. The air conditioning was on, but they drove with the windows open as well because no offense, but you boys really smell bad. Miss Morengo explained that she was a patient attorney. I'm helping your father with a new product he's invented. He happened to mend your situation, so I did a little investigationing. Sly Livington sneakers were stolen sometime before 3:15. I found a young man, Derek Doone, who said that at 3:20 you were in the bathroom finishing your notebook out of the toilet. Two girls remember seeing you come out of the boys' restroom carrying a wet notebook. Stanley felt his ears redden. Even after everything he'd been through, the memory still caused him to feel shame. So you couldn't have stolen them, said Mrs. Morengo. You did what? Asked Miss Morgan. He didn't, I did, said Zero. You did what? Asked Miss Morgano. I stole the Snickers. The lawyer actually turned around while driving and looked at him. I didn't hear that, she said, and I advise you to make sure I don't hear it again. What did my father invent? Stanley asked. Did he find a way to recycle Snickers? No, he's still working on that, explained Miss Morengo. But he invented a product that eliminates foot or odor. Here, I've got a sample in my briefcase. I wish I had more. You too could bathe in it. She opened her briefcase with one hand and passed the small bottle back to Stanley. It had a fresh and somewhat spicy smell. He handed it to Zero. What's it called? Stanley asked. We hadn't come up with a name yet, said Miss Morengo. It smells familiar, said Zero. Peaches, right? Asked Miss Morengo. That's what everyone says. A short while later, both boys fell asleep. Behind them, the sky had turned dark, and for the first time in over 100 years, a drop of rain fell into the empty lake.